Hello, my name is John Sobieski, and I represent a group called Truth Crusaders. Thank you for watching. Our group would like to commend a couple of people from opposite ends of the country who in recent weeks have spoken out publicly in opposition to a philosophy variously described as an evil belief system, a totalitarian ideology, or a theocracy. To the north, in Minnesota, attorney Gary Boyclair is running for Congress to unseat the incumbent Muslim Brotherhood toady, Democrat Keith Ellison. Mr. Ellison is perhaps best known for his crocodile tear-up performance at Representative Peter King's hearings on domestic security and the homegrown terrorist threat. In a shameless attempt at playing the sham Islamophobia card at these hearings, Mr. Ellison asserted that there was a Muslim EMT who died when the World Trade Center buildings collapsed, and he was subsequently vilified as a terrorist for having disappeared much as a plotting terrorist might have done. Mr. Ellison choked up, the waterworks flowed, and it made for cheap soundbite entertainment. But there was one problem. Most of Ellison's story was a lie. There was a Muslim EMT who died, but no one ever accused him of being a terrorist, and no one doubted that he died trying to save lives that fateful day. Ellison's story was worthy of an Oscar, and he is sure to receive the 2011 Joseph Goebbels Award for sowing deception in the pursuit of truth. Imagine that, a dishonest Muslim congressman telling a bold-faced lie at an important congressional hearing investigating the homegrown terrorist threat. I have to believe that Mr. Ellison knows that the investigation should have centered on the homegrown Muslim terrorist threat, or else why would he lie as blatantly as he did? Ironically enough, it isn't even Ellison's lies that Mr. Boyclair objects to in a campaign commercial he has produced. What Mr. Boyclair objects to is that Ellison was sworn into Congress on a Koran by then Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi. Mr. Boyclair's commercials cite several Quranic passages which, for instance, incite the faithful to murder non-Muslims with impunity, or to sow terror throughout the non-Muslim world so as to bring about Islamic domination. And generally, he amply demonstrates that the Quran is not a holy book so much as it's a book of hate. The question that bears asking of Mr. Ellison, therefore, is, why would you want to be sworn into Congress on a book which, once read and analyzed, reveals it to be the manifesto of an evil belief system which calls for the destruction of the non-Muslim world as we know it? That would include the United States of America, Mr. Ellison. We here at Truth Crusaders stand foursquare, shoulder to shoulder with Mr. Boyclair in his bid to rid the Congress of a dishonest Muslim congressman who thinks nothing of lying at important congressional hearings and whose holy books call for, what else? Lying, deception, betrayal, rape, murder, pillaging, beheadings, stonings, bestiality, pedophilia, slavery, and whose teachings actually truly call for the destruction of our culture and our way of life, the subversion of our Constitution, and the dissolution of the greatest country in the history of the world, the United States of America. Which brings me to the southern end of our great country and the sunshine state of Florida. It seems in Hillsborough County, a member of the Republican County Committee has stated his opinions of Islam, and they are none too flattering. After much careful study and research, Mr. Scott Barish has come to the conclusion that Islam is not a religion so much as it's a theocracy or a totalitarian ideology. That would classify it very much along the lines of, or worse than, fascism and communism in the way they dictate how you live every aspect of your entire life. That's right. That would rank their satanic prophet right down there with Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Chairman Mao, all the great mass murderers of the 20th century. And my parents always taught me, you're known by the company you keep. Now, Mr. Barish couldn't bear the stress and anguish that his research revealed and the conclusions at which he arrived, so he aired them publicly, and with good reason. Only recently, there was a Muslim honor killing in Tampa, which was whitewashed, covered up by the coroner's office, even though one of the investigating authorities who originally went along with the cover-up revealed she did so out of fear for her life and Muslim retaliation. What a shocker! A Muslim honor killing, where the victim is brutally beaten beyond recognition by savages over the course of an entire day. And when these sadistic Muslim murderers finally phone in their crime, they report it as a suicide, and they intimidate the coroner's office a little on the side just to, I don't know, make Muslim honor killing safer in the future? Understandably, as nauseating as that is, Mr. Barish could no longer remain silent on his interpretations of the true, violent, aggressive, supremacist, even pathological nature of Islam. Mr. Barish is to be commended for his courageous stand and gets kudos for highlighting the growing threat of a Muslim tyranny brought on by the slow colonization of America, just as they've done in Europe, and it is fueled and facilitated by the creeping application of Islamic Sharia law throughout our court systems, just as they've done in Europe, and that is what endangers us all. Mr. Barish's parting comment was, "The entire history of Islam is littered with human rights violations." We here at Truth Crusaders stand foursquare, shoulder to shoulder with Mr. Barish and his defense of America, and we would state further that Islam is the graveyard of human rights. Islam is the cemetery to which all freedoms, the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, conscience, religion, all freedoms go to die. Islam is anathema to all freedom-loving individuals. Islamic Sharia law is not just unconstitutional, it is anti-constitutional. Any faith which demands of its followers the murdering and terrorizing of innocent men, women, and children is not a religion stemming from the teachings born from a holy book, but rather it is the flimsiest of excuses for a glorified global terrorist organization masquerading as a religion, thus disguising their true genocidal intentions. And it is thoroughly layered over with copious shows of false piety, which actually truly illustrates that they are absolutely devoid, utterly bereft, of any and all spirituality. Keep up the good work out there, guys. This is Crusader John Sobieski signing off with this shout out to the Oath Keepers and the 3%ers out there. We have just become the 4%ers.